What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Matt Ryan Show. Sitting alongside Mr. Matthew Hargrove. It has been a minute since we have recorded. A lot of busy personal things, a lot of time off. So we're getting back in the weirdest spot of the season, which is the NBA Finals. Game 6 is, as of recording tonight, Thunder can close it out in Indiana. I thought about going. If Indiana had won Game 5, I thought about going to Game 6, kind of like when you did with Milwaukee, and just sitting outside the stadium. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say,
yeah,
getting
no. Yeah,
tickets
no.
for
Podcast hasn't taken off yet, so.
well, I didn't think when you said that just now. It's not the craziest thing in the world because I would think tickets compared to previous NBA finals are not as
What do you think the
expensive.
average ticket is? Because I looked them up.
I still think it's good. Five
It's
hundred.
around 8, I think, to get in.
Okay.
But for finals,
Which
I mean, that's,
if I'm a fan of the team, if I'm a fan of the team, I'm paying that in
yeah.
a heartbeat.
Especially those two teams, like Thunder, maybe not, because they have a chance to be a dynasty, but like the Pacers, you may never see the finals again in your lifetime. So,
Yeah.
um, you got to get those tickets while you can. But OKC is up 3-2 in the series. It has been a very, very good finals, despite all of the media and the small market. There's no draw to this finals. Maybe the numbers are down. If you are actually into basketball, this is a great finals to watch. Really hasn't been too many blowouts. A lot of close games towards the end. And it's just like the beginning of the series was really interesting. Pacers go steal game 1 yet again for what feels like, I believe it's the 4th time this playoffs where they are down late in the fourth quarter, and they make a comeback in game 1. And then OKC gets one back. But the Pacers go up 2-1, and everybody kind of starts to get, we didn't get to do predictions on this show, but I mean, I would have picked OKC in 5. I don't know what you would have picked, but I definitely didn't see the Pacers getting 2 games, let alone have a chance to get 3 or maybe even win the series at that time. So just your thought on the finals
No,
and how the Pacers are doing.
I would have picked if we recorded before the finals. I would have picked the Pacers to win Game
Mm-hmm.
1, and then the Thunder to win Game 2, Pacers Game 3, Thunder Game 4, and then I probably would have went OKC
That's
for Game
interesting.
5. So this is kind of run on par with everything
And
that
just
I
out of
would have
curiosity,
picked.
who was winning Game
So
6 in your predictions?
you're just gonna have to wait for the
Yeah,
next podcast.
yeah.
No, but it's been solid hoops. My favorite game has been Game 4, and I loved it so much because I feel like that was Shea's not his breakout game because we all know how great SGA is. He's the MVP for 2025, but it was kind of that moment that solidified him. That really, if the Thunder go on to win this series, that'll be the game that everybody talks about because Indiana should have won that Game 4, and some of the shots that Shea hit towards the end, the biggest one was, I believe the Pacers were up by 4, and Shea had a contested 3 from the right wing and knocked it down, made it a 1-point game. But he also had the drive to go to the baseline, had a little bit of a shove off, but it's okay. We can get away with that. MVPs can get away with that in the finals. And hit that baseline mid range jumper, and then he was able to get to the foul line in the final minute with the spin around, and I think it was Nate
So
Neesmith who
the
fouled
interesting
him.
part about that game
So, but he was
is
great.
that the last 2 minutes, so OKC called a timeout with like maybe 2 minutes left, a little over that, and it was towards the point where they were starting to lose it. Like Indiana was really gaining some steam, trying to close it out, and Mark Daigneault made what I thought was the most genius move of this final so far from the head coach. He got Neesmith to switch on to Shea for every possession. And the outsiders look at it and they go, well, Neesmith is their best defender. Why would they purposely put Neesmith on Shea? I don't know if Shea likes that matchup or if he's just confident against Neesmith because Nimhart's been giving him problems. The ball pressure, the picking up full court and just harassing him, 94 feet. They ran a pick and pop was Shea setting the screen to get Neesmith on him every single time. And that's when, the last 2 minutes, he had like 4 straight possessions where they either got a bucket or got to the line. So I thought that was a fantastic move, one by Mark Daignault, and then also Shea, just to embrace that matchup and say I can take Naismith one-on-one for the last 2 minutes and pretty much go win that game, because that's what he did. And especially on the road, when you have that's the biggest game of the series, is that game 4. 3-1 and 2-2 is the biggest difference in sports across the board. So that game was probably the best test for the Thunder, and they pulled it out. But I thought that was the adjustment that was made that really helped them out.
Yeah. Now I don't think if the Pacers would have won that game 4, I wouldn't have said that it was officially over, because you still had the game 5 in OKC, and then Thunder are probably thinking, well, if we can just take one in Indiana and get at least, game 7 back in OKC, we have a shot. So even if they went down 3-1, if we, had the podcast and that's how it looked, I wouldn't have said that it officially, I think it's over. For the Pacers, it is weird to see them in the finals when you just kind of look at their roster and their makeup. It's really impressive, and it's great because and the reason why it's weird is just because every year we just have, in the NBA we have some kind of superstar, and I know there's some discourse on if Tyrese Halliburton's a superstar or not. I'm not there yet. You got to win a finals to kind of be there, and you can't have 0 points in a
Yeah,
game 5. I hated that because I love Halliburton, but just no excuse for it. Great player, but if you're going to be the number one, like everybody thinks he is, I know Siakam's been giving them big buckets, but Halliburton's the best player on that team. He makes them go. How do you not score a single
bucket
bucket?
is the big, yeah,
If
because he got a few
anybody,
free
if
throws, but he was 0
yeah,
for whatever it was. I think it was 8, or he didn't have a singular basket. He hit a few free throws, but that was it. And it was very, and you're right, because the entire playoffs, even the broadcast team, everybody that talks about him, who knows basketball, goes, this is the guy who makes them run. But also, if he's not aggressive, this team is a shell of themselves. Like, he has to be aggressive in order for them to win, because it creates everybody else the space that they need. If he's a non-factor on the scoring side of things, then they know, well, you can kind of let him do whatever or play him one-on-one. The second you start having to help off of him and bring that second guy, that's when it gets dangerous if you're an opposing team for the Pacers. So
yeah.
yeah, him having not a singular bucket, and then my problem is not that game happening, and then immediately it's like, oh well, he's got a calf strain, and maybe it happened during the game, and maybe it was before the game, but we never heard anything about it until you score 4 points in the finals. So that's what gets me angry. I'm like, everybody's hurt, everybody's playing through something. Are you going to play? Because if he's going to play in game 6, then I don't want to hear it. So that's kind of the discourse, because that happens all the time with players, where at the end of their bad performance, they go, well, he was hurt. And it's like, well, don't be out there then.
Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
broken pinky
Or like
or something
LeBron
like
showing
that.
up on the
If you're
podium after the game with a cast on his arm, and they're like, what happened to you? And he's like, oh, it's been broken for 4 weeks. It's like, oh, interesting. Well, you played through it, so I don't want to hear any excuses as to why.
yeah. Well, we've actually had this conversation on the pod. It was when the NHL during their All-Star break, they had the
Yeah.
4 Nations tournament, and we were just talking about the grit that those guys, those hockey guys have. And it was Matthew Tkachuk, I believe, after the Panthers won the Stanley Cup. Apparently, he was playing through some, I mean,
Yeah,
very
this is not a
significant
strained
injuries.
This was not a strained calf or a minor calf. This was like a hernia and a. I
Yeah,
think he dislocated. I don't know what the main problem was, but
yeah,
he definitely
yeah,
had a hernia.
yeah. And went on to win a Stanley Cup championship. And I just love there was a video that I saw. He's just smoking a cigar and singing Chapel Roan in the locker room with a busted
Yeah.
brain,
What else
pretty
can you
much,
do?
playing in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great
I
way to
mean,
celebrate. I tell you what, I love some
yeah,
Chappell
you
Roan.
can't. I mean, everybody can hate
I think
the.
she I think she's very underrated too. She gets some love, but I think for all the upcoming artists right now, I think
I think
she's
people
up
just
there.
see her as a one-trick
She's
pony, and that is not for me to say. That is not a play on words.
mm,
That was just, of
Pink
course,
Pony Club.
which has been the number one song for I don't know 5 weeks.
It's been the number one song for
I
my
mean, I listen to
playlist
it every time it comes on,
for
and I am.
it's at the top. It's at the top of the Matthew
So
charts
if you
for the
give me a
last 3
cigar and that
months.
song, I'm having a great time. You know, so I can't blame.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great way to
I don't
celebrate.
mind when
But
it's at
no,
the end when you win the championship and then you tell me that you've got whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, impressive. But you still played through it, so I still expect you to be, your normal self. So if you're hurt, play through it. If you're injured, stay off the court. That's all it is.
yeah, if you're on the court of the field and you decide to play,
It's no longer an
then
excuse.
you're
Yeah.
you're good to go. You're good to go. But yeah, I hate that as well. I think he plays.
There's
So we're
if
recording
you
this
don't
on.
play, it I
Oh, he
know,
will.
I know,
He
but I'm
will.
saying like
He will
you know,
play.
so he better play better at home because they're gonna need it.
He will
Does
play.
OKC close it out tonight? You
No, Pacers win tonight, and then the Thunder smack them in Game 7.
interesting.
The Thunder they've done this to every team in the playoffs. They just in a 7-game series they come at you so aggressively on the defensive side, especially, and everybody knows this. It just wears you out. And obviously, it hurts this being at the end of the season after you played for what feels like a
Yeah,
full year, like 9 months of basketball now for the
almost
Pacers and
100
the
games.
Thunder. But they just go on these defensive runs that are it wears down the best. We've seen it. It wears down the best offenses in the league, even in the Western Conference. The Timberwolves had no answer. They shut down Anthony Edwards, who some people have crowned him as the next face of the league. They were able to shut out Jokic better than most teams in the past. So it's unbelievable what this team is on the defensive side of the
Yeah,
ball.
they people always talk about the offense, but the baseline of it, like defense, still wins championships every single year. It's always teams that even like the Warriors dynasty. We always talk about it, but like Steph, Clay, Dre, KD, they were still a top 5 defense. Like people forget, they're like, oh yeah, they could just outscore anybody. Yeah, they could, but they didn't have to because they were a top 5 defense on the other side. So every team that wins has got to have a magnificent defense. I do think OKC closes them out tonight. I think it's kind of reminiscent of, um, kind of like the first championship for the Warriors, which is, um, you know, that was a little different because there were some injuries and everybody's gonna point to those, but it was kind of the same deal of like going back and forth early. Um, it kind of felt like Cleveland was gonna win, and then Kyrie got hurt game 1, and then at some point during the series the tide switched it and then they win in 6 and Steph kind of has this finally moment where everybody's like, oh, okay, he's actually here. And I think Shea's been like, everybody knows he's MVP, but I don't think they take him seriously in the playoffs yet because one, we haven't seen it, but two, he is known as the free throw merchant or whatever, so they always, playoffs, that doesn't happen. And so he's shown that he can still score at a high clip in the playoffs. And we talked about it probably months ago now. And I was worried about it. Well, I was like, does this turn into a James Harden or, really James Harden is the first guy I thought of, was like, does he rely so much on the free throw line that he can't
Really,
produce in the playoffs? And that, not that James Harden didn't produce in the playoffs, but there's times where he went non-existent because he couldn't get the foul calls. And when he doesn't get the foul calls early, he kind of checks out of the game mentally. So, not saying Shea was that, but you didn't know if those types of players that rely on that so much can even score outside of that, and he's shown that he can in big moments. So I think they're gonna close it out tonight. Indiana has kind of shown their hand where OKC just needed like a 2 game adjustment period to kind of get everything right against them, and now they've got them on the ropes and they know exactly what buttons to push and who to put where. It's suffocating if you're Indiana. And honestly, shout out Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle was the coach of the 2003 Pistons that took them to the championship against the Lakers or the Spurs. Who do they play?
They beat.
Well, they beat the Lakers in
Beat the
04.
Lakers in
But
the
Rick
finals.
Carlisle was a coach before they hired Larry Brown. So
Larry Brown.
he took pretty much the Pistons very far, and then he was too young to kind of realize that they were going to win a championship, or he was too young in their eyes, the front office's eyes. And then he takes the Mavs, who is a one-man team with Dirk, and 2006 they probably should have won, and then in 2011 they shouldn't have, but they did. So they've got a championship there. If you've got one person on your team that, and then a bunch of solid guys around him, Rick Carlisle better be your coach, because that's the only way that you're ever going to make a deep run in the playoffs for some reason. I don't know how he does it, but he just knows the offense, sticks with it, and there's always a game plan around their best player. So if it was Dirk, it was get the ball at the high post, have enough guys around him that can do the dirty work, whether it be Sean Marion or Jason Terry, who can hit threes, or Tyson Chandler, Defensive Player of the Year. And then on this side, it's like, well, you've got Pascal's your 2, but you've got guys like Naismith, Nimhart, just dudes that will pick up 94 feet and then also can create a little bit on offense if they need to, or Naismith just being a spot-up 3 guy. It's just, maybe that's not all Rick Carlisle, because shout out to the front office, but he just always finds a way as a head coach to get those types of teams in a deep run.
Well, it's yeah, it makes a lot of sense because now, granted, he was a top 10 pick, but one of the guys that's really surprised me is Obi Toppin. And it's been with his 3-point shooting ability, because everybody knows that he's always had the athleticism, but especially in game 1, I think he had like 5 or 6 threes, and they don't win that game without him. But he's had a couple of games in these finals where he's kind of carried the offense at times. Oh, and then Benedict Mathurin had the big 27-point game in
we
game 3,
know,
which we love Benedict Mathurin, which is crazy because, he kind of gives off J.R. Smith vibes a little
really,
bit. Like, it's either going to be, I think so. I think it's either going to be an insane game where he drops like 27 and everybody's like, Benedict Mathurin is the best player since LeBron James. And then there's some games
you're
where
like, is Benedict Mathurin playing this
you
game?
just don't know. You're like, what? Yeah, you're like, what is he doing? He has no idea where
Yeah,
he is.
he
But
has the
yeah,
makeup to be
this is
a elite defender, and he has the offensive capabilities to be a 20-point scorer. He just comes off the bench on a deep team, and I think he's going to have a great night tonight. I think he's going to score 20 tonight. It may not be enough. I still think OKC wins, but Arizona guards just get me. I don't know what it is about Arizona guards, but I have loved Alonzo Trier when he came out of college. I loved him. Benedict Mathurin, Arizona guys, I don't know what it is. And I hate Arizona. So I never.
just occurred.
Okay.
I knew you would. I knew
Yeah.
you'd appreciate that one. But yeah, Arizona. I know I've always rooted against them just
Pac-12.
because of my Oregon Ducks fandom, but have to admit there's been some great Arizona Wildcats over the years. And Richard Jefferson, make sure on the broadcast to let us know that Benedict Mathurin is a Arizona Wildcat. I actually, real quick, the booth, the broadcast team. I've been seeing complaints about the broadcast team, and in all fairness, it is their second year together, and they're trying to compete with Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. Those guys had like 20 years to really hone in a relationship, and I think
20
that's
years
the
is
biggest
crazy.
thing.
Because
Why,
Mark Jackson was the head coach of the Warriors in like 2013. Or 2014, actually.
yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah,
So
that's
it was just,
right.
but that's
Well, no, no, no. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he took a year off broadcasting. And I'm pretty sure in those years before he
he might have.
was doing
Oh,
the
really?
finals. So yeah, I'm pretty sure because the reason I know this, and I'm saying this because this is the only reason why I go back and watch Carmelo Anthony highlights religiously, and I'm being dead serious when I say this. When he plays the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, Mark Jackson's on the call for that, and that was 2009. So I'm pretty sure he was with them, and then he got the Warriors job, and then decided to come back. And I'm not sure if they did a three-man booth or they just kept it with Mike Breen and Van Gundy.
Yeah, because
But
I don't like that was a match made in heaven with those three. Like those were, and Mike Breen was having fun back then. You can kind of feel Mike Breen. He's doing a job rather than you know
yeah, I think it's just those three are just not
not as compatible.
they're just not best friends. You can tell. Like you could tell Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. Those three guys, you could see them going out after the game, going to a bar, eating dinner together. Like, what do Mike Breen, Richard Jefferson, and Doris Burke all have in common? That they would consistently and you know that is you got to be talented and you got to know your stuff, but a part of it is you got to have that chemistry. You got to have that relationship, and it just kind of feels right now that they're I don't want to say forcing it, but some of the jokes like Richard Jefferson or Doris Burke will make a joke and they'll just kind of they'll laugh, but it's not it just doesn't feel
Well, and half
genuine
of it's
yet.
timing too. Like the guys that have chemistry know not when to not step on each other. It's got to be a tough job. Like I'm not saying it's easy, but I know Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller have been doing it for so long that they know. Like Reggie knows when to shut up and to let Kevin
Oh,
Harlan
they
go.
know, yeah.
Um, so like parts of that is doing it for a long time, and Richard's only been there for 2 years. Doris has been doing it for a while, but hasn't done it in the finals. So um, it'll be interesting. And I don't even know if Kevin Harlan, like, because the TNT lost the rights, so it's going to NBC. I don't even know if Kevin Harlan gets to call games anymore. I don't know how that works. I don't know if he has a different contract,
They'll make
but
it work.
he's got to
They'll
be
find a
because there's
way.
no way. And as much as I love like Mike Tirico, I don't know if I can listen to Mike Tirico every day in the NBA if he calls games or I don't even know who the NBC guy is.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on how much you like Tarico because you got to hear him on Sunday Night
Yeah,
Football, and then you're
but I don't think he's ever
probably
called
gonna.
basketball, so I'm not sure who the is Ian Eagle an NBC guy.
Yeah, he's done basketball.
Okay.
Tarico's done basketball.
Um, so like it'd just be a different
Yeah,
crew,
Iron
but
Eagle.
I just it's not been fantastic to listen to, but I'm not turning it off like everybody else says they are. So it's just it's a chemistry thing. They've got to figure it out. And
Yeah,
ESPN but
yeah. It's the
it's the
second
broadcast as a
year,
whole.
and
It's the entire production that kills me. Like people talk about it, and it's been like we kind of bitched them into putting a digital NBA Finals logo on the court, which I thought was the worst idea they could have done. And then the problem is they do that, and it's almost like a damn. Here you go, like you got what you wanted.
you know what is scary. This is I don't want to say scary, but this is I guess when you think about it, like life
This should
in
be good.
general, has always been run by the people. You know, America is a democracy, but it really does feel like now every single decision that is made, especially in sports, because it's so popular on Twitter, every single decision made in sports is based off of the reactions on Twitter. Like companies, it's like they're dictated by what people want on Twitter, and I get it. Like I I understand that's where a lot of the fans are, but I just think uh, there are a lot of fans, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the ideas are good. You know what I'm saying? So just because like the mass or this amount of people want it doesn't
Just
mean
because
it's
just
a
because a
great
tweet
idea.
got
Now, yeah,
90,000 likes doesn't mean it's that great of an idea.
let me say this. Yes, the logo needs to come back. I fully believe that because
Part
I
of it's
will say this.
nostalgia. Like part of it's that you look back and you're like,
Yeah,
those are the
yeah,
Kobe
but
years, and
why?
that was when it felt like an NBA Finals. If the teams didn't wear, like, if the fans didn't wear specific colored shirts, I wouldn't even know it's a playoff game. Like based off of the
Well,
broadcast.
that's what I'm saying is I tuned in. Uh, some of these games have been going on when I'm at work, but I want to say it was like game 3 or game 4 where I had the night off. I sat down and got to watch every single dribble of that game. And halfway through it, I was thinking to myself, I feel like I'm just watching a regular season game. I don't know if it's like with the crowd mic or the presentation, but it just does not feel like I'm watching the NBA Finals. And to be honest with you, I think what would be really cool is if the play-in courts, if they had that for the finals. I think that would be awesome if they had the color courts. Now on the production side, they do make all the logos gold, so that's nice.
Everybody does that.
But yeah, the game 2 when they broke out the digital, I was like, listen, you either go all in or out. If I would have tuned in and there would have been a big NBA trophy on the logo, yeah, you would have had people that were like, this is awesome. But if it's not, like, don't just try to please somebody at the moment. Like, if you're going to go all in and do something like that, yeah, I thought that was
And it's
so
not even just the
ridiculous
logo.
when they
It's
tried
like
to do
even
that.
like pregame, like maybe it's just the fact that every time you turn on ESPN, it's no longer what it used to be. Maybe it's just because I've got Stephen A. Smith yelling in my ear about KD during the NBA Finals, or whether Memphis is a good place to play or not in the NBA Finals. Maybe that's what it is, and maybe it's the fact that they don't cover the game anymore, and it's more about clicks and what social media will take and grab and run with. Um,
Oh yeah, well that's what first take.
but but the problem
That's
is
what
is
first
that
take's about
it's not
now.
just first take, because I see him pregame and he's on the pregame show, and then I see him on the postgame show, and it's Stephen A. Smith everywhere, and he doesn't actually he's playing solitaire during the middle of the fucking game, so it's not like he's watching it. So maybe get a guy who actually cares about the game of basketball and not just
Well, I will say this. You say that. I actually
I
love
know you do.
Stephen Egg.
And I don't
I
mind
and
him,
I
but
think
there is video evidence of him playing during the game. Again, I
there
don't
there is.
care,
Yes,
but
yeah.
then don't like quit talking about the game as you do. Like nothing is ever easy with him. It's always loud and obnoxious, and it's always like I've got to pick a fight with somebody. And I don't know if it's been since the whole LeBron thing that he's just like calling out players now. Like him and Ja got into it on Twitter. Like him and LeBron hate each other. I don't know if he's just ever since then he's like I'm gonna be the villain now, but it's become just this. ESPN is a joke as far as covering sports goes.
Well, I think a problem. I think a problem with that is now Stephen A. The reason why I do give him credit is because that has always been him. Like when he first started getting big at ESPN, that was that was his thing, was being loud and having these hot takes. But I think a problem, and you know what? I want to relate this to Marvel movies because I am sick and tired of Marvel movies. So lately, all the characters are the same. They all have the same sarcastic personality. And I think this is the direction of like where ESPN is going. They see how successful Stephen A. Smith made himself by being loud and having those hot takes. But just because one person doesn't mean everybody needs to do it. And I think that is a problem with ESPN is, and I compare this to Marvel, they have somebody, like Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. was so good at being witty and sarcastic, and that's what everybody loved about the character. Well, it seems like recently in all their movies, every single person is the same character and you start to get tired of it. I think that's kind of how ESPN is. is you turn on ESPN and now everybody's Stephen A. Smith, and it gets really tired. Like Kendrick Perkins, that's all really Kendrick Perkins tries to do now. Is he just tries to give his best Stephen A. Smith impersonation, where he tries to give you a hot take, and then he'll make some kind of like Southern joke. He'll be like, "Well, that I don't know. That was worse than mama's or grandma's biscuits or whatever." And I'm allowed to make fun of that because I am from Tennessee, so I kind of understand those jokes. But I even on like Get Up and stuff, like I hate when the guys on Get Up, and I know I'm kind of ranting a little bit. I'll let you talk here in a minute. But those guys on Get Up, they're like, you know what? I get sick and tired of talking about this subject, and then you're spending like 45 minutes on the subject. I kind of watch those clips and I'm like, you guys will literally be like, we need to start giving this guy credit. I'm like, you are the guys, you are the people giving them credit. It's like you complain about what you guys aren't doing, and it drives me insane. But I do think that's a little bit of a problem because I have seen the discourse on how people don't necessarily like the broadcast that ESPN are putting out. And I think I've always thought that is the problem. Is it seems like everybody is trying to be like Stephen A. Smith, and like you said, they're going for clicks, and
Right.
clicks
Well,
makes
I
money
just don't
now.
like. Everybody loves the TNT crew to a point. I like at times I get tired of it because a lot of them, besides Kenny and Ernie, like or Shaq and Chuck, really, they don't really watch the game. They talk about the old heads and how they're so much better, and they make the jokes, and that's fine in that space because that's what they are. That's their entire personality. Their crew works. They have good chemistry. I don't want that on every broadcast. I don't want everybody not knowing the game and just being like, yeah, well, this player doesn't do this because it's not the 90s and Jordan was the best and I was the best. I was the most dominant. How many rings do you got? That's fine. When ESPN does it, when Stephen A does it, when the I used to look up to ESPN and be like, I want to be on Sports Center, and that would be my, the dream. I can't imagine that being a kid's dream now. You don't even have to know about sports. Are you a good arguer? That's the main point. Can you argue with somebody for 3 hours about nothing? If you can do that, you've got a shot to get in. You just got to learn a little bit about the game. And I know Stephen A. covered the game for however many years, but he doesn't even care about that side anymore. It's more just about, how many shows can I get done in a week, plus my own podcast, plus this, and this, and can my name get thrown out there enough to where everybody hears it? And I mean, part of it is the discourse. Part of it's the producers that produce those shows because that's what they want. That's what, some of these guys are workers that are like, I've got to do this because it's my job. And maybe I don't like it. Maybe I'll say I don't like it on air, but I can't change it because I'm not the producer. And half of it is the NBA Twitter because, not Twitter, but just the NBA fans in general because they watch it. They listen to it. That's what they care about is what argumentative piece can I dissect today and get into. And it's mind numbing. It's awful to listen to. Like
Well,
I
well,
miss like when JJ Redick had a podcast. That's what I watched. Like before Mind the Game with him and LeBron, I watched Big Man in the Three constantly. Have
well, he was great. He was great on
and
First
he was good on
Take.
First Take, but he was the only guy that would stand up to these guys and be like, "You're not actually, you weren't there. You don't know anything about basketball because you weren't playing it." And guys like Kendrick Perkins who did play it are now just trying to be Stephen A. So it's a complete. It's awful to watch. So until you get real guys like that, but then those real people end up getting real jobs. He's an NBA coach now. Like
Well, I think the reason why we're so passionate about this is because we graduated in broadcasting, but like I think one of the frustrating things about like the broadcasting field now is it isn't like old school journalism anymore. Like it kind of feels like can anybody can be kind of a broadcaster. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we're kind of doing it right now by doing this podcast. But yeah, like you turn on ESPN, they have a debate show in the morning on Get Up. They have a debate show right after that. It's First Take, and then after that, they have Pat McAfee. So it's not the it's not your old school where you have Sports Center and you have anchors. Like the only thing I would say ESPN has two like really good pieces of journalism or broadcasting, and that's PTI. PTI is still a great show, and
Yes.
Scott Van Pelt. When Scott Van Pelt goes through, it's a good mixture of him being a anchor. He
Yeah.
has
And,
interviews.
and when he has
He has
what's the Tim Legler when he has legs on, like that,
yes, Tim
he'll
Legler is
bring guys in
phenomenal.
who know the game, who've played the game, who've been in the NBA, and have them dissect the game instead of Scott Van Pelt going up there and going, well, this was wrong, this was wrong. Um, this is what caused this. He'll just have an expert come in and go, talk to me about the game, and he'll interview them while having film on it, and
Yeah,
like that stuff is what we like to see.
yeah. I will say I do think ESPN does a phenomenal job with their football coverage. I think they have some really good
You
football
mean like
analysts.
the
I
broadcast or the
think
before the game?
I'm saying well I mean Joe Buck I think is great for like Monday Night Football, but no, I think like the people that's on NFL Live. I think
Okay,
Orlovsky
yeah,
does a
yeah, yeah.
great job. I think Mina Kimes is phenomenal. Marcus Spears. I think the guys who do football are pretty good. But yeah, the
But
basketball
that but the problem
there's
is
just
that does
been
not get anywhere near the viewership that First Take does. So it won't be long before First Take.
no.
Well, one, they talk about football already, and Stephen A. Smith probably doesn't even care about football. But they they eventually will take time away from all these other networks, and maybe Around the Horn just ended. Not that no, I watched that because I didn't find it too interesting, but a lot of people did, and it went on for 15 plus years, and all of a sudden they just got the boot, and it's like yeah, because you got to make room for more, you know, argumentative pieces that will get clicks. That's the main point. If we said something up here today that was super controversial that would make a viral clip, that's when something takes off, and then you've got to become that over time. You can't just go back and forth between being a quote unquote analyst, not that we are, but some of those guys are, and somebody that just throws out hot takes to try to get something to stick. It's like throwing something at a wall and seeing if it sticks, and half of it doesn't, but the half that does is what keeps you going, and that's where they're at right now. But
Yeah, well, listen, I totally understand the you want to get views. I mean, that's the whole point. Like that's the job. Like you need to get as many views as you can, but it's people can tell between a show or somebody being genuine and then somebody just doing something not because they care about the subject necessarily, but they care more about making sure that they get the views to higher their status. Like you said with TNT, I think something that you loved about those guys was it was a mixture of them goofing off and then being good analysts, but they weren't trying to up their status whatsoever. I mean, it's Charles
yeah,
Barkley and Shaq. They don't care about their status. They're former NBA players. But maybe like for Stephen A. and Kendrick Perkins, I mean, people post the videos of Stephen A. It's Stephen A. Those videos of him walking into
he
NBA.
thinks he's the main
I mean,
character.
you can tell he thinks he's the
Yeah,
baddest man. He thinks he's the baddest man alive. Which listen, he's getting paid like $10 million by
I
ESPN.
respect
I would
if I was him, I'd probably be doing the exact same thing. If you paid me $10 million to go talk about bullshit and make up these narratives and think about stuff that may get clicks, I would do the exact same thing. I'm not saying I'm any better. I'm just saying that shouldn't be everybody's idea of a show. That is the problem. And the problem is that everybody tries to get views, and those views end up leading into people who don't even care about basketball get into the discourse on Twitter, and then those people are determining what happens because the NBA listens to that. So it's this roundabout effect of, well, that guy said this, we say this on Twitter, that then goes to the NBA, and now we get a finals logo on a court that's not real. Like that's eventually where it gets to. So, yeah, it's partly the NBA, partly the coverage, and it's all just a 20-minute conversation to say we need to do better.
Anyways, I know. Yeah, we went along with that. You know what? We're
Yeah, well,
passionate
it's
because
tiring.
like
It
we
makes
said,
me not want to watch.
I mean, this is yeah, but I mean, this is the field that we graduated from, and we just wanted to be great. We just wanted to be great. So that's why we spent 20
Yeah.
minutes talking about it. Anyways, what's
Next on the
next on the
docket would be
docket?
Desmond Bane going to Orlando for 4 first-round picks. I don't mind the picks because a few of those are going to be higher picks. The one I care about is the one they gave up. So let's go over the trade first. And so obviously Desmond Bane, Milwaukee. I still got Giannis on my mind. Memphis Grizzlies trade Desmond Bane to Orlando Magic for 4 first-round picks, KCP, and I think something else, but I think it was just to make the money work. But let me see the exact trade because I forget who the second person was.
Well, KCP, yeah,
I think there was
KCP,
somebody. Cole
Cole
Anthony. That's it.
Anthony.
And honestly, it's kind of it's a lot. That's a lot to give up for Desmond Bane because I think Cole Anthony was good in the playoffs last year for Orlando off the bench. But either way, that's the trade. One of those first round picks, though, is the Phoenix Suns pick next year. And that's the one that I want to talk about because that might be a colossal mistake for Orlando if this does not work out. Is that there's a good chance, there's a great chance KD's leaving Phoenix, and they probably won't get much back for him. There's a chance D-Book gets traded in the next year. And if you're looking at that 2027 pick, or 2026, whichever one it is, that is a valuable
Oh yeah, you're
pick.
looking at
And Memphis might have just stole a top 5 pick from Orlando. Now, obviously, it depends on if Book stays or goes, because if Book's still in Phoenix, I don't think they're a bottom 5 team, but it is a tough that's a tough get for Memphis. And Memphis just kind of showed their hand, basically saying the big 3, quote unquote, of Jaren Jackson, Ja, and Desmond Bane just wasn't enough. And that's kind of where they're at now. Whether they choose to keep Jaren Jackson and Ja and just try to find somebody else, or if this is kind of the beginning of the blow up, then we'll find out. But it's a good reset for them to. I mean, KCP is a solid player, solid 3-and-D guy. Maybe he wants to go to a championship contending team, but and Cole Anthony is a good bench piece. I just think it was a lot to give up if you're Orlando to. You better hope this works out. Having 3 wings basically in Bane, Banchero, and Wagner. It shows that they really trust Banchero to be that number 1 guy and that they're ready to kind of make that push. But I need to see if it works out first.
yeah, it honestly really scares me. Uh, you know that starting lineup on paper, it does look really nice, but it does not move the needle for me for this team being a real contender in the East. Now I'm still a believer in Boston. Now next year they're not going to have Tatum, and I have no idea what they're going to do with
Yeah.
Jalen Brown. So, but I still don't put him over the Knicks. I still don't put him over the Pacers. And I just have a hard time believing that Milwaukee is going to be silent this year. These are some really crucial years. Now I don't know what they could do because it doesn't sound like they have a ton of money. I was reading an article yesterday from I want to say it was ESPN. It was ESPN, and I apologize. I forgot who wrote it, but it was a list of trades that they could do. There were some interesting ones there, but it just kind of sounded like they were going to find ways to. Um, it was like to try to trade Giannis, but I'm hearing reports of that's crazy, so I don't really know. But I have a hard time believing they're going to stay silent. So, but it just doesn't really move the needle for me. I still don't think they're in that upper echelon of the strong Eastern Conference teams. Now, nobody thought the Pacers were in
Right.
that area, and they're in the finals this year. So, but I still think they're not yet there yet because of the age. I still think Paulo is still really young. And, by the time he gets ready, Desmond Bane's going to be about 30. So I'm just saying for next year. But yeah, you're exactly right. This really needs to work out.
Well,
They're giving
that
him a ton.
and maybe it will. And even if you get Bane for 3 years, 4 years, and you make an Eastern Conference Finals run, or hell, if you even make the NBA Finals, then that might be worth it for Orlando. Um, I just think they saw an opportunity. They go, well, Boston's going to be without Tatum all year, so we've got a shot there. Cleveland is fraudulent, and they might blow stuff up here this offseason, so there's another shot there. Um, Milwaukee has been non-existent the last 2 years with Dame. Maybe they'll never figure it out, but who knows? But they think they're above them, so that's three teams right there that they like. Well, we got a shot there. Pacers come out of nowhere. Do they make another run like this next year? The Knicks are the only team, and they don't even have a coach right now. So in Orlando's mind, they're right there, top three, top four in the East. Um,
Detroit?
I love Detroit. Do they take that next step up next year, or was this a one off? I hope that it's the next step and they continue to get better, but who knows? But yeah, it's a very interesting move. It shows where the front office thinks they're at, and like I said, it shows a lot of trust in Paulo. They have to think that he is the guy to take them to the championship. And let's be clear, I don't disagree with them. I think he's a top 15 player in the league already. Just nobody talks about him. He doesn't get enough love. Kind of reminds me of Cade Cunningham.
Well, he hasn't been out of the first round.
Correct, but he's only been there twice.
I think that's why.
He's been there twice, and
yeah, I didn't mean that as like a
no, yeah,
slight.
I mean that's just facts.
That's probably
but also
why,
he took Cleveland to 7 games last year, or the year before, I guess. And then who did they play last year? This a few months ago.
Celtics.
The Celtics. Yeah, so you lose in 5 to the defending champs, and every game was close. So I just think this is their playoff, because I think Franz wasn't ready for the playoff and still may not be for those moments. And I think Desmond Bane can kind of lift some of that weight off their shoulders. I just don't know how it's going to work. Suggs, Bane.
Well, yeah, because Desmond Bane in the playoff series, I know Memphis didn't do anything,
but he was good
against the Thunder. But he's
not only that,
solid.
but he was the number one. He was the main scorer, and he was being guarded by the best defender. So it's not like he will not get that in this. The best wing defender is going to go on Paulo, and then the next best one might be on Franz. So you might be the third best defender on Desmond Bane, who can put up 20, 25 in a season if you need him to. So yeah. It's
nice defender too.
Yeah, and he's got Suggs next to him,
and he's got he's got Python arms. Yeah, they're. I mean, he's a stocky
it's very
boy.
Weird. Like
I want him to grab a helmet sometimes when I'm watching games. I want him in the middle of the field for the
somebody
Pittsburgh
better put him
in
the Mike linebacker position and see if we can go get a stop. I need to hit that A gap just like that. Let's see if we can get one downhill.
And to be honest with you, next playoff series, let's just test it out. Let's see what he's in the Eastern Conference now. I don't know. Give me a team. Pistons. Let's get a good rivalry going. Let's have Cade Cunningham. All jokes before I say this. Let's have Cade Cunningham go for a layup, and Desmond Bane just gives them a nice shove to the 5th row.
See if he can. Let's see if it's all show or not. Let's see if he's a bodybuilder or if he's a.
I tell you what, if that happens, I'll get up. I'll start clapping. And next morning oh man, that doesn't belong in the league. I'll be the first caller in. Yes, this is the new era.
Make it a Paul Feinbaum show where you just.
No, all jokes aside, no,
but it's
in basketball. But no, Desmond
he's a good player, and you've got Suggs next to him, so you've got the guy who can defend any guard. He's one of the best defenders in the league, and he can shoot threes. Recently, whether he can stay healthy or not is the biggest question. So you've got Suggs, Bane, Franz, Paulo, and whoever you want the center to be, Wendell Carter maybe, who hasn't really panned out. It's a good starting 5. Do they have enough bench pieces? No. Anthony Black doesn't do anything for me. Mo Wagner is fine, but they need a bench piece now that Cole Anthony's gone, and I forget where they pick in the draft, but I don't remember if they have their pick. Let me see. Orlando's got 25. Um, you might be able to get a steal late. Maybe a guy like Walter Clayton falls to you, or maybe a guy like Jace Richardson falls to you to kind of be that bench guard the bench guard to replace Cole Anthony.
Bench guard
Yeah.
off the bench.
But it's a win now move for sure. So they're going for it, and we'll see where that pans out for them. But
Yeah, the East is wide
which
open
is yeah,
next
it's
year.
kind of how it's been our entire lives.
Wide open. Like saying the Pistons make the Eastern Conference Finals next year is not
No.
or the Magic make the Eastern Conference Finals. I do have the playoff numbers pulled up
Yeah,
from the Magic against the Celtics
I think
this
Franz
past
shot
season.
awful.
Huh.
I said I think
What?
Franz.
Well, he shot 19% from three, and he averaged taking 7 threes a
That's
game. So he was pretty much averaging going 1 for 7 every
yeah,
game from
not
three.
not what you
That's
want.
just not. It's not going to get it done. It's not going to get it done playing Kyriakis
Yeah.
basketball.
Well, and they needed shooting, so
Um,
that's what they needed. That's what they got. They tried to get it last year in KCP. It didn't quite work out. So maybe this will work with Desmond Bane. But
yeah, but this is probably why they believe Paulo is, and why we believe he's the truth. 29 a game, points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. He shot 44% from three.
and that's with one of the best defenses in the league at the time.
And that's it. That's at 22 years old. Paulo
Yeah.
Banchero, 6'10", 250 pounds. Born in Seattle, Washington, he attended Duke.
He did.
That is Paulo
And
Banchero.
I loved him out of high school. I wanted him
That's
to
the man.
Kentucky as badly as anybody else did. I thought he was by far and away the best player in his class. He wasn't even. I don't think he was ranked number 1 at the time. I think he was like 2 or 3. But some of these high school guys, you could just tell that they are the real deal. You just watch, some film a little bit, and you're like, that guy. He just moves differently. And some of these top guys that are ranked out of these high school classes, you're like, I don't see it. But he was one of those guys that was easy for me. And then he goes to Duke and produces, and I go, well, he's a number 1 pick. And then everybody's like, well, excuse me.
Bless you.
He's like, well, Jabari Smith out of Auburn might be, fighting for that. And until maybe 20 minutes before the actual draft happened, we thought Paulo was going number 3. Like, that's how, undervalued he was in that draft. And then, of course, it happens.
Which stunned me.
I thought Orlando was going to pick him the whole time.
I thought he was easily the number.
So then he finally goes number 1, and now he's just proving every year that he's consistently getting better. Yeah.
Which, to be honest with you, I thought the same thing with Tatum when he got drafted. I thought Tatum easily going into that draft should have been number 1, and then when Boston got him at number 3,
I liked Markelle.
I said to myself, the Celtics are going to win the championship in 2024.
Really?
And then I said to myself, Thunder Pacers 2025 3-2. Thunder take
You should be a
3-2
prophet.
lead.
I mean, you've got some real future mind reading stuff going on. Maybe it's just me, though. I don't know.
Yeah, 2025. Let's
What was
see.
it?
Oops, something's come to me. Steelers Super Bowl? Oh, sorry. That other team, Eagles back to back. 9-8 for Steelers.
Wow.
And so Eagles back to back. 9-8.
Does Mike Tomlin
Steelers.
keep his job?
Yes. Oh, he's here till 2088. 2088.
Yeah, they'll never get rid of him, unfortunately. But no,
They're gonna
Orlando might be a top 4 team in the East next year, and we'll see if they can make it past the first or second round. So it's a good move. Did they give up a lot? Yes, but if it helps them get to an Eastern Conference Finals, then I don't mind it. And I think you're kind of in the same boat. But last thing,
Oh, yeah.
NBA draft coming up. It'll be this. Is it a week from today? Next Thursday? Am I crazy? 20.
Yeah, June
Oh, it's a
25th.
Wednesday. Why
Today
are you on a Wednesday?
is the 19th.
So it's next Wednesday, as of recording. Obviously, everybody knows Cooper's going number one. Um, we don't think there's no reason for Dallas to trade the pick anymore. Um, really, it starts at number two with San Antonio. Whether they have that pick in a week will determine a lot. Rumor has it that they're willing to give up between 4 to 8 first round picks and some players for Giannis. So if you see, I think their main thing is they don't want to give up Stephon Castle. I don't think they'd mind giving up Shohan for Giannis. They didn't want to give him up for KD. So if they put together a trade package of the number two pick, which was probably going to be Dylan Harper. You get the number two pick, you got Shohan, and you've got 4 other first round picks. Is that enough for Giannis? It's to be seen. I mean, maybe Harrison Barnes and Devin Vassell get thrown in there as well. But hopefully we'll see that. If not, Dylan Harper. I don't mind Dylan Harper going to the Spurs and being that. And if you can get Harper, Castle, still have De'Aaron Fox. You've got Victor, obviously. You still got Shohan. Like, that's a good, solid young core to work with. And you've got the experience with Fox and Harrison Barnes. So I don't mind that lineup at all. Eventually, it'll get to the point where you're going to run out of room for some of these guards. But I do think Dylan Harper, and I know we hate hot takes, but this is not really a hot take. It's more just...
No, we love hot takes. Just that
I think Dylan Harper's going to be the best player out of this class.
We don't want him white hot.
I think Dylan Harper's going to be the best player out of this class when it's all said and done. Like when we look 15 years from now.
That is a
I know. But I do think he will be more of a 1A type player than Cooper Flagg will be. We've talked about it a lot.
You know what my hot take is? Dylan Harper will be the worst player in this draft.
I'm glad you agree with me. Well, let's be clear. I was right on Cade. I was right on Paulo. I was right on.
Those will be our draft takes.
Yeah.
Dylan Harper best. Yours is the best. Mine worst. I would rather have Ace Bailey. I'd rather have Jace Richardson. I'd rather have Don McHenry.
Yes.
From the Hilltoppers.
Of course. Go Tops. I'm glad you don't like him as much because
it's a lot of. I'd rather have the entire roster of Colgate than because they play fundamental basketball.
And you don't like Dylan Harper because he's left-handed? Is that what I heard?
I don't like Dylan Harper because he's not good at basketball.
Gotcha. Well,
and he's going to be the worst player in the draft. Dylan Harper will be an MVP.
I don't think he's going to be MVP. I don't think anybody in this class will be, though. I just don't. It's not a great class. Obviously, everybody loves Cooper. I think he's a great player. I don't want to get that torn up here. I think he's going to a perfect situation where he won't have to be the main guy. His rookie year, he'll probably win Rookie of the Year, mainly because of the hype, but also because he'll produce defensively and he'll be the third option, so you won't have to have any pressure on him. And that's kind of how it is on these top 2 picks, unless San Antonio trades the pick to a Milwaukee, where Dylan Harper might be the face of the franchise at that point if Dame and Giannis leave, because I can't imagine Dame wanting to stay after Giannis leaves. But I think he's the best player, and I think another riser that everybody's finally starting to fall in love with. I think Con Knipple from Duke is just a solid player. Like, he's a top 5 pick, solid player that will be in this league for a long time. He'll have a 17-year career, and everybody will be like, how did he get, so good, or how is he so consistent? Or he's just one of those guys. Everybody thinks he's a slow white guy who can shoot, but he's much more than that. He's great in the mid range. He can't hit the 3, but he's pretty quick. He's got some quick feet on him. I think his shuttle time was actually just as fast as most of the guards were. Now he's not the highest jumper. He's not the most athletic, but he's just fundamentally just a great basketball player. And I think somebody like Charlotte will benefit from that. Somebody like that is consistent, can be beside Melo, can occasionally handle the ball if you really need him to. He's got to work on that, but just another nice player in this draft when there's a lot of unknown. VJ Edgecombe is an unknown. Ace Bailey's an unknown. They have high ceilings, but will they actually work out? Who knows? So yeah, those are my two takes on this draft. Do you see any sleepers? Any hot takes? Any?
I think it's not a hot take, but I'm not shocked if like a huge trade goes down.
Yeah, who? What would be the first one you thought of?
Huge blockbuster.
What would be the first one
What
that you think of?
Spurs?
Yeah,
Like a Giannis. It just been a ton of news about it. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the plug. Uh, Honestly, too, I would not be I would not be surprised, and I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Dallas did trade that number one pick. If they did want to go after Giannis, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. If they did it, I think there would be some people who would give them flack just because they want to, and it's Nico Harris. Harris. Um, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if big blockbuster trade goes down. At
and
this
one might
year's
happen
draft.
before that. I mean, KD.
It's got the feeling.
KD's probably going to get traded. What we know is that he won't get traded for as much as everybody. Like his value is very high still in the NBA, I believe. Now the fact that he wants out, that Phoenix knows he wants out, and he's not coming back, it devalues the market for him a little bit. So maybe if you're San Antonio, you can get away with giving up Vassell, Harrison Barnes, and the 14th pick and keeping two, or maybe a first rounder next year and still keeping two. So there's a chance that happens. Or I know Minnesota said that they did give up Rudy Gobert, Rob Dillingham, and Dante DiVincenzo for Kevin Durant, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the best that the Suns can get. Whether I've heard reports that he might not want to be in Minnesota. I don't know if that's true or not. Obviously, KD will come out and tell you on Twitter eventually, but there's a few interesting spots where I still think he can be. I don't think he can be the 1A anymore, but I do think he can be the second. He can fit in any system. That's the best part about KD. Whether or not that system is good enough, like you don't have to give up Jaden McDaniels to get KD, which is it'd be great if you're Minnesota having Edwards, McDaniels as the defensive guy, KD being your second option. I think that's fantastic for them. Now they would give up both big men in 2 consecutive years. I'm not sure who would play their big other than Naz Reid, but it would be an interesting trade. I don't know where the best fit is for KD. I'm sure you've got some opinions on that, but Houston's looking out for him.
KD is a Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's a great bucket getter.
Interesting. He's a champion.
He has won a championship.
2 of them,
yes,
actually.
he has.
But I still think if he goes to somewhere like Houston, it won't work out. They don't have the guy. You've got to have the guy there, in my opinion, for KD to work out. So if you go to Houston, I don't think it'll work out. If he goes to Minnesota, I think Ant can still take that 1A responsibility, and KD can just go get a bucket. And that's what you need him to do.
See, I think it's just impossible for him to get there.
What do you mean?
And well, I'm just like thinking of some of the trades. I mean, yeah, it's not. I guess what I mean is it's not impossible, but I just have a hard time believing that Phoenix. The only way I'm doing that trade is Naz Reid has to be a part of it. He has to.
Yeah, but
if I'm
Phoenix doesn't have a leg to stand on. Like everybody know.
Well, then I'm not doing the trade, and you can probably get something else from another team. So I'm just saying, like, I do not think that.
I don't think anybody's getting anything for it. Like, I don't think if you're Spurs, you're not giving up Shohan, or I don't even know if you're giving up Vassell, really.
I think your best bet's the Rockets.
But what would you get for him? You're not getting Thompson.
That's the way to go.
You're going to get Jalen Green?
Well, you can get Sagoon.
No, you can't.
Oh yeah, if you did a swap for Sagoon and KD, I think the Rockets would do it.
I really don't think they would, because the Suns have zero.
I think you'd be surprised.
the Suns have zero reason to ask for that. At this point, everybody is going to lowball them to the point where I swear that I think Rudy Gobert will be the best option they have to get. Rudy Gobert and a young player like Rob Dillingham. Like that is the best offer they'll get for KD, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Wow.
I just don't think the market's there for him. It's got to be like, does KD move the needle for Houston to become a championship contender?
I think they would believe so because that's how people view KD. No, you're right. You're right. But there are,
Right.
I believe there's teams and people that they do believe KD is that guy. So I wouldn't be surprised the front office looks at the situation and they're like, well, we have a window with Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet, and we can still have pieces around them that we can make a run.
But I don't think teams
I
would give up their
fully
best
believe that
player
because
to get KD, and Sengun is their best player.
I'm not saying it will happen, but
Right.
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked.
I'd be astonished if they gave up Sengun for him. But that's just me. I mean, there's a few other spots that he could go to, but in all reality, it's probably going to stay out west. It's probably going to be like, even if the Mavericks, like, you're not giving up the number one pick, you're also not giving up Kyrie, AD, so you're giving up a bunch of, role players and maybe a future first for KD. Like, it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy.
You know what? You know what? Too. If I was the Suns, I think I would do a. I think what would be a smart idea is if you don't have as much leverage, I feel like a KD for the number one pick would be a good swap.
But
If the
Dallas would
Mavericks are
never do
wanting
it.
KD,
They would never do that.
well, if they're wanting KD,
Someone would shoot Nico Harrison. And that's not me saying that they should. That is a cold-hearted fact. Somebody would take him out. And it's not funny.
I don't think it would be terrible because I mean we talked about it, but like the Mavericks are kind of in win now mode. Like they got older guys. They have Irving and Anthony
but
Davis.
This pick fell in your lap so that
and
you can sustain. Like, you don't want the window to be a 4-year window, which is what it would be, a 3-year window if Kyrie, KD, and Anthony Davis. That then limits your window. It's now 3 years or never.
Well, do the Mavericks feel that way? Because they made the trade for Anthony Davis. They want to win now,
Right,
clearly.
but I think Cooper Flag extends that window. If you've got 3 years with Kyrie and AD, by the time you get to that third year, Cooper Flag should be, if you think that's what he's going to be, one of the best players in the league. Then you have, when Kyrie and AD retire, you still have Cooper Flag there. Like, if they go on all in for KD, I don't think they'll give up their future for that for the next 3 years. And maybe I'm wrong, because they've clearly shown that they don't.
Well, all the stuff that I've said.
But that's the problem.
You're exactly
is that it could happen because we just saw Luka get traded 6 months ago. So what the fuck do I know?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I guess I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of what a front office might be thinking. The reason why I said the 1-for-1 is because the Mavericks are probably thinking, well, we're in win now mode. We'll get Kevin Durant, who's still playing at a high level. I know I bash on him, but he's still playing at a high level. Puts up 25 points a night, he still can. And you also don't have to give up any other pieces. So you're literally just giving up that pick, and you still have the same roster that you clearly the Mavericks think is good enough to complement Anthony Davis and a healthy Kyrie Irving. So in their eyes, they're just taking a team that they already think, and I'm thinking about this from the front office point of view. You're taking a team that you already think is good enough to win a championship because you have said it, and you're adding Kevin Durant. So that's like where my thinking is. I'm not saying other people have to think that way. I don't even think that way.
Right.
But I'm just saying maybe that's what the Mavericks would think.
Well, it's hard to get.
Suns are like, just give us.
It's hard to get in the head of Nico Harrison because we clearly don't know what's going on in that guy's brain. So that could be a viable option in his head. I just don't know. Like, I don't. Who would be the 1A in that situation? Like, who's the guy in that team if that were to happen? Is it AD or is it KD?
Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's the best player on that team. I would if I had to pick a player, um, if I had to win a championship next year, and I go down the list, and somebody tells me you got to pick Kevin Durant or Anthony Davis, that's your first pick. I would definitely go with Kevin Durant. I'm not a huge believer in KD, but I have more faith in Anthony Davis. Um, just with the way his movements now, and yeah, I mean him and LeBron couldn't get out of the first round,
Yeah.
so
Well, and
I don't know. I've lost faith in Anthony Davis.
that's fair. I mean, he's
He's
also
not the
always
same.
injured.
He's not the
So
same.
it would just really suck if you traded
He's still a solid
Cooper
player.
Flag for KD to then have Kyrie and AD be injured because Kyrie's out for half of the year and AD's probably not going to play most of it. And then you got KD on an island by himself. And it's going to be back in the same situation that the Suns were just in, where you gave up your entire future and now eventually KD will want out, or one of those two will want out, and you'll be left with nothing, which is what the Suns are at right now.
Yeah.
Last team would be the Heat. Apparently, he wants to go to the Heat. Why? He clearly doesn't care about winning anymore. If that's where his mind is at.
Yeah, it's just Miami. Players love Miami,
Which I get, but also
they love the city.
Yeah,
Well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe he doesn't care.
that could be it.
Maybe he's just like, you know what? Last 3 years of my career, I just want to. Maybe he's thinking, well, you know what? That's probably where I'm going to retire. That's where my retirement home is going to be. So maybe just go play 3 years. He'll get buckets. He'll score 25 a night, 30 a night, and he'll get out the first round for the next 3 years. But he'll be happy.
That's all that matters.
Good for him. Good for him. I'm not living in Miami. I'm not putting up 30 points a game. I have a cookout tray right next to me. That's my meal. He's probably getting a fillet.
And he is
in Miami.
And he is.
Yeah, with some like nice mashed potatoes and I don't know.
I don't know if he's a mashed potatoes guy.
Like,
yeah.
Honestly, like I feel like he's a picky eater. I can see him. He'll go for like mac and cheese.
I do think him on the Spurs would be fun though. I think him on the
Spurs.
I think him like teaching Wemby how to be a 7-foot freak with long legs and long arms, to kind of know how to use your body would kind of it benefit Wemby, and it also getting the mentorship of CP3 for 1 year for Wembanyama, and then you getting a guy like KD to come in and show you how to be, it'd be interesting.
Fun. Yeah, I would enjoy myself watching Spurs games. It would be.
Last few things. NBA draft. Down the board, there's a few guys that I want to throw out there before this happens, because we probably won't record before then. Obviously, everybody knows Walter Clayton had a great run with Florida. Still projected as a late first-round pick. The NBA size and quickness and all that is a definite, I don't want to say issue, but it's a concern for most teams, which is why he's still towards the end of that first round. Does he have an NBA career that's sustainable?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some parts to his game that can transition
Obviously the shooting.
So
it's hard to tell if this is one of those guys where it's like, you watch all this in college, why did you not think it could translate? And then there's also the other part of, well, it could be one of those guys that you draft at 15. You're like, well, that did not work out. It could be, a Jimmer Fredette situation, or, like it could be one of those guys that you're like, the writing was on the wall, you just didn't read it, what was going on. So it's hard to tell with these. You never know. Like, hindsight's obviously 2020, but right now, it's hard for me not to see him succeed, even as a bench piece, somebody coming off the bench and being that guard. Even just a shooter, he has shown that he can shoot the hell out of the ball. It doesn't matter where he's at. So shooters stay in the league for a little long. That's kind of how you stay there. Jace Richardson is another guy that late first that could be, we mentioned him earlier, could be one of those guys that you're like, well, late first round pick. He was a guy that kind of stood out. Obviously, son of Jason Richardson, former NBA player, so he's got some bloodline.
Yeah, the reason why I like him, so he's actually a smaller. I want to say he's a smaller guy. I could be
I
wrong.
think you're right. He's 6'2",
Before I did,
180.
yeah, I want to say he was like 6'2",
Yeah,
6'3". But the reason why I like him, those smaller guys, they have to find something else that just makes them stand out, and usually it has to do with defense. Something that I've loved about Caruso being in this finals is, you've seen him talk about how he's needed to stand out, just kind of with his makeup, and he's talked about the defense, or like T.J. McConnell, like a really small guy like that. Like McConnell has always been a just defensive fiend, and I think Jace Richardson has that, where he's just a
just a dog. Yeah,
gritty dude. He's a dog. We saw that at Michigan State. So having that mentorship of the great Jason Richardson, who was a absolute dog for the We
mm-hmm.
Believe Golden State Warriors, had a really nice NBA career. That makes me like the pick if it's late for Richardson. He can go score. He doesn't have fear. Needs to have an extra gear to play defense, and I think he
Well, you're gonna
finds
hate
that.
this because obviously Oklahoma City, they could close out and win a championship tonight, but they do have the 15th pick, and they also have the 24th pick, which is where Jace Richardson is slotted to go. So
Yeah, I could see Jason Richardson going there and then becoming like another just like Cason
yeah,
Wallace kind
just
of
a guy
guy
that's off the
for
bench that
him.
ends up starting in the finals for some reason because you're like, this guy just gets things done.
Yeah, he kind of like he gets
Yeah,
the job done. So
shout out Casey Wallace. Last
yeah,
two second round guys that may have an impact on the league. I do like a Duthiero. I don't know why he's projected to go to the second round. A Duthiero is a athletic wing defender who, if you can just get his shot a little bit better, like if he could just refine his shot, and I'm not talking about a shooting coach that fucks up his entire form. I'm just talking about getting a spot to where he can shoot 35% and be respectable out there. A defender who can fly like that, and he's one of the most athletic guys in this class, would be a very good get. He's also very strong. He's 6'7", 220. Just a perfect small forward for somebody coming off the bench. And he's projected to be like a 40th pick. So, you know, that's a second round steal in my opinion. And then you've got some shooters. You've got, Kobe Bryant from Kentucky. I know I just mentioned two former Kentucky players, but I did watch them a lot. So
I mean, no, Kobe Bryant, man, the way he shot the ball this year, it was
it's lights out.
lights out.
It's
I mean, he hit some big
six
buckets.
seven shooting guard who can shoot the ball with the best of them. If he could just become half of a defender, I mean, you've got a solid another bench piece, maybe even a starting shooting guard who is like a I don't want to say KCP because is nowhere near the defender KCP was, but just a guy who can spot up in the corner and hit a three when you need him. It's never bad to have those guys. You just don't want to be a liability on defense, which right now he would be. So, but that's about it. I mean, this class it's very interesting. You got Nimhart's brother. You got Ryan Nimhart towards the end of the second round. Maybe the Nimharts have a holiday situation or an Antetokounmpo situation where the older one is always better. But
I would say I would say they're hoping for the
yeah,
holiday.
yeah, well,
Thanasis
great player,
hasn't played the most minutes in the
but he has
NBA
been on the
again.
bench, and you notice him on the bench.
He does have a ring.
We don't.
Thanasis Antetokounmpo has more rings than Anthony Edwards, Charles
Yep.
Barkley,
Why did his name get thrown?
Allen
Yep.
Iverson, Carmelo
That's
Anthony,
tough.
Jimmer
And don't forget
Fredette.
about Alex Antetokounmpo. I don't know where he went, but in high school he was supposed to be like the next big thing because his brother was in the league. But yeah, that's about it though. NBA draft coming up. We'll talk after the draft. Get some, because it's really about fit. It can be he could be a great player, but if the fit doesn't work, if the system, if somebody goes to die in, you know, Charlotte, which most players do, you know, it's kind of tough. But we'll see where Philly goes at 3 because Ace Bailey clearly doesn't want to go there. He's not working out for him. Maybe they go with a guy like Edgecombe. Maybe Ace Bailey falls to a little bit better team. Maybe he goes to you know, Houston or Toronto or even Portland. So
It'll be a good
it'll be
draft.
a good draft,
It'll
and
be a
we'll
good
have some
draft.
reactions after the fact. So until then, hopefully the NBA Finals will go in your favor if you're a fan of one of those. My assumption is they'll close it out tonight. Matthew thinks they'll go 7, and OKC will have a blowout victory in Game 7, but we shall see. And we will see you on the flip side of the finals and the NBA draft.